Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time that you are watching this lecture. So we are going to be diving into Michel Foucault's work on social control. And this is going to be the first lecture in Module 3. So let's just jump into it, shall we? So Michel Foucault is seen by some as the forerunner of postmodern social theories, and by others as one of its foremost practitioners. He gave us several important works, and one that stands out for us here in the discipline is Discipline and Punish, which he analyzed surveillance and control over others. Two other main grand theories from Foucault are on madness and civilization, on the rise of psychiatry and the history of sexuality, on sexual repression and control stemming from Victorianism. For the rest of this lecture, let's take a closer look at surveillance. So Foucault was interested in the practice and techniques by which control was exercised over people, which he called governmentality. While the power of the state over people is the most obvious form, Foucault was more interested in the power that was practiced by agents and agencies unrelated to the state. Foucault's book, Discipline and Punish, explores the period between 1757 and 1830. He sees torture as a mechanism of control being replaced by prison rules, a change that was nonlinear and seen by modernists as progressive. This change also allows for the ability to punish more deeply and widely. This new form of punishment had fewer side effects and was advantageous in that people could be taught rules before even engaged in deviance. Additionally, rulers could be imposed and taught and retaught repeatedly. So this was really, really useful in this perspective, right? That rulers and rules could be imposed and taught and retaught repeatedly. This was advantageous over torture with its very detrimental side of physical effects that torture would do. Furthermore, rules could be imposed rationally and bureaucratically, and they could be exercised and more broadly over entire populations. So we start seeing about this power element that he has of how we can able to understand and break this down. So when we look at this, we see that there are various ways to understand this, right? So going from here, the three instruments of control and observation of the populations are as follow: hierarchical observation, the ability of those at the top to oversee with a single gaze. This is best exemplified by the Panopticon, a structure that allows someone in power to completely observe a group of people. In total, this forms what Foucault calls disciplinary society, one that is controlled by the fear that it might be under observation. The second is normalization judgments. Those in power decide on what is normal and punish those who violate these judgments. And then finally, examinations. Those in power use examinations to observe subordinates and judge what they are doing, such as medical and work examinations. So go with me here on imagining, as you're going to see in this slide right now, going forward, right, is that we have this idea of the prison, right? So go with me here and imagine this is a top view of a prison. This is what Foucault observed when he wrote Discipline and Punish, where the watchtower stands tall in the middle of the cells around the outside of the tower facing inwards. That way, the guards in the tower can watch the prisoners at any time, yet the prisoners cannot see the guards that high up. So if the prisoner is faced with assuming he is being watched at all times, therefore, he is apt to follow the rules. Now, how can we think about this idea of prison rules and surveillance that fit within the postmodern world? Well, when you know you might be being watched on video surveillance, candid camera, you can't locate but know may be present, how likely are you to make sure you are following the rules? If you are driving down the street and you get to a light that has a camera at it, even if the camera light is out of service, you will likely make sure you don't run the red light. There are just a couple very small, these are just a couple very small examples. But what other ways can you think that you could apply Foucault's ideas? Think maybe social media, right? You may want to explore some of these thoughts in your discussions on Yellow Dig. Now, that example I gave you, ironically, with driving down a road, is a famous comment by the Unabomber, if you aren't familiar with it. It's this idea of if you were to see a street light and no one was there, 360 view, there's no police, just the light. Do you blow through it or do you not? It tests your moral ability to understand the situations of do you follow the rules no matter what. Now, this idea of the Panopticon built by Betham and then the Panopticism done by Foucault is fascinating because think about how much we observe our actions now in the modern world with social media. How much do you act or how much do you limit how you post because you're worried about the ability of others judging you? Foucault's work is fascinating, and it pulls to this idea of the nowadays world that we're in, right? Modern society is a large scale panopticon. Or is it? One of the most interesting and strange things I hear semester after semester is students who start noticing strange, weird, and not really wanted targeted marketing to their cell phones because of the topics discussed in class. So pay attention to your TikTok algorithm or suggested ads on social media for the next month. Are you being watched? And if you are, do you care? Or do you think we become willing participants in the panopticon, desensitized by the panopticism? I'll see you next lecture.